This activity is part 2 of the packet tracer basics. All right, so we have made this small topology, LAN topology, and which has two machines, and these two machines are connected to a switch. And also we have a server which is connected to another switch, and these two switches are connected together. So now let's label this machine. Okay, so it is already labeled PC01, and now we're gonna label it with anything that you can basically remember. So I'm gonna label it with the IP address that I will be assigning to this machine. So let's say 192.168.1.10. And just remember that this is just a label of this machine. It is I have not configured this machine with this IP address yet, so this is just a label. So let me label this machine with the IP address that I will be assigning to this machine, 192.168.1.11. Okay, and I'm going to label this server also with the IP address that I will assign to it, 192.168.1.99. All right, so since we have labeled these end devices, so now let's go into this machine. So if I click on this machine, let me go back and show you again. Yeah, so these are the the physical layout of this machine, and if you click on this config tab, it basically shows you the the settings, the global settings of this machine. So like the gateway, the DNS server, what type of a DNS server, I mean, have you configured a DNS server? So let's leave it because we are not really concerned about it right now. So let's go to this interface, the fast Ethernet interface, and we're going to assign an IP address to this machine. One way is to assign it via DHCP, which is a dynamic host configuration protocol, but let's for the time being assign a static IP address. So the static option is already selected, and I'm going to assign an IP address now, 192.168.1.10. So this is the IP address that I'm going to assign to this machine, and I'm going to close it. And if I go back and click this, again, and click this fast Ethernet, and you will see the IP address, which is 192.168.1.10, which I just provided. I configured this machine, and notice in the below field, this is the subnet mask, which is 255.255.255.0, which is pretty much equal to /24. Okay, so now let's assign the IP address to this machine also. Okay, go to the fast Ethernet interface, static IP address 192.168.1.11, and if you see, I mean, this is the subnet mask, which is /24. Okay, and I'm gonna assign the IP address to this server. Notice there are some services. There's a service tab, and because it's a server, so it already has a web server because it is running an HTTP protocol, so it's going to be an HTTP web server. And we can also configure an FTP server, a DHCP, and a whole bunch of other services that we can basically run on this server. So now let's first quickly configure this server with an IP address. So I go to the fast Ethernet, then the static IP. I'm going to assign a static IP address, 192.168.1.99, and the same subnet mask. All right. So now I need to basically access, because this PC, this one, it wants to access to this machine, this web server. So let's see what services are running. So HTTP service is running, and also let's configure an FTP server. So on this server we can configure an FTP service. So for that, the service is on, and let's create a username, and the username is student, let's say, and the password is VU. That is a password that we're going to assign. And I'm gonna give all the rights, right? Read, delete, rename, and list. And I'm gonna add this user to this FTP, server. And I'm done. All right. So I have created an FTP, service and a user, student and VU with the password. So I'm gonna go to this machine. I'm gonna click on this machine, and there is this tab, desktop tab. So if I click on it, there are, a bunch of options. So I'm going to use this command prompt. I'm going to click on this. So it basically opens a command prompt, so this is the command prompt of the PC, which I am on right now. So let me first check the connectivity. So let me first say, ping, and then the IP address of the machine, whose connectivity I want to check, .1.11. And as you can see, I am receiving a reply from that machine. And I can also basically ping the server, and I know the IP address of the server, 168.1.99, and here you go, the reply from the server. So which means, this basically, tells me that the machines are connected to the network and they are reachable. So now let me, connect to the FTP server. So I'm going to write FTP. All right, and then the IP address of the server, 192.168.1.99. And now it's going to ask me the username. So I'm going to have to provide the username, which we just created. Student was the username, and the password. Remember what password we chose? It was VU. So I just wrote VU, and here you go. I am inside the FTP server of the server that we just created, and I can do a whole lot of other things. So just let's go back. I'm gonna write quit. So I'm gonna go back to this machine, the command prompt, and I'm gonna turn it shut it down, and then go to the config command. And this is how you basically we created a small LAN, and we tried to access the web server from one of the machines that we created, or we basically configured in the LAN.